Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for sticking with us. We are excited to be joined by the amazing filmmakers that you have just seen today. My name is Tammy Nguyen, and I'm the president and co-founder of Against the Grain Productions. And I also produce the award-winning documentary Operation Baby Lift, The Lost Children of Vietnam. Thank you, filmmakers, for joining us today. I would like for you to start by some introductions.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for having us. I'm Titania Tran. I'm the poet, writer, and director of My Sister, and I directed it alongside Lauren Dennis, who's such an incredible creative partner, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ian. I am the writer, one of the producers, and lead actress for Clementine, and my pronouns are she, hers.
Hi, I'm Kwan. I'm a filmmaker based in Canada, and I'm the director and cinematographer of the film Becoming Ruby.
Hi, I'm Amy Pham, and I'm the co-director of Sex, Baseball, and All Possibilities.
Hi, I'm Kai Sampadian, and I'm also the co-director of Sex, Baseball, and All Possibilities.
Hi, everyone. My name is Summer, she, her, and they, them, and so glad to be here with you. I'm the director, co-writer, and producer of Yellow Balloon.
Awesome. I am so glad to have you all here in this space. I know you've all dialed in from different places around the world. It's so great in a post-COVID world to be able to gather in this way and share your amazing message with everyone. It is a delight for me to be able to moderate this panel that is so unique in the themes, style, and tone and content. As a very adult female filmmaker now, I have come to some wisdom in my years. I have a guiding principle: where your passion meets your pain, you will find your purpose. So I want to know, each of your beautiful films is so unique in its representation and reveals a truth about your own pain. Based on this principle, what is your pain and what is your purpose?
Great question, Tammy. If it doesn't take us too far back, before I was a filmmaker, I worked in mental health, and there was a time that I was working with a lot of different people and getting to hear their stories. And though no story or experience is directly comparable, a theme that I found that was surfacing in all of them that was really debilitating is this feeling of being alone. I think that's something that all of us have experienced and can be especially debilitating in a time that we're trying to heal. And so I think how that translates into my purpose is, especially with film, is I think film has this ability to transcend time and space and distance. It can reach anyone at any moment, at anywhere in the world. So I create films and tell stories to help people feel less alone if they can see themselves represented in some way, especially if they can see themselves advocated for and their voices amplified in such a way. So with My Sister, it was prompted by the violence against women in Iran, which is a place that me, being based in the US, wasn't able to reach, and catalyzed by the murder of Mahsa Amini. At the same time, within the same year, we were seeing the Taliban tighten restrictions against women in Afghanistan, not letting girls go to school. At the same time, we were seeing Roe v. Wade being overturned and abortion rights being taken away. And all of these movements were covered in such isolated ways, and in those respective governments, they were silencing their communities and isolating them and making them feel alone. And so that was the intent of this film, to recognize these movements not as individual protests, but as a global revolution for women's rights, and one that no matter if any point in the world anyone was being silenced or turned off in any way, there was another part of the world that we were advocating for them.
It was so strong and powerful. The poeticness, the poetry of how you did it was just amazing. So congratulations. Ian, how about you for you?
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful story and everything. I I personally don't think I can go into talking about my pain. We would need like a whiteboard and some handouts, and like 5 hours minimum. But like what really inspires me from, my, I guess, pain and trauma, like I really, really aim to um, tell stories that really resonate with me, that I would have loved to have seen, earlier on in my own transition, my own childhood, teenage years, all that stuff. Because, growing up, we just like never saw a lot of stories that properly reflected our own experiences or of what we could be and what life could be for us. And so, especially as like a trans woman, as a Vietnamese woman, but I just really, really want my work to uplift and affirm my trans sisters, my siblings, my BIPOC siblings, communities, and just help provide, eventually, like I really want my production company to be a big up and running thing that like centers trans and like BIPOC stories and early filmmakers to help give them the opportunity to tell whatever story they want to tell, because it is so much harder for us, just to like, get that toe in the door, So I really hope I can help make it easier and just help more of us be seen and in this world and feel more belonging and whatnot. So yeah.
You did a tremendous job. It's very hard to be a hyphenate, to do all that you did.
Right. Oh, thank you. I mean, it's like we have to, otherwise nothing's going to get done for us. So
You definitely got it done.
thank you. And kudos to everyone here as well. So it's really freaking cool to see everyone do their thing.
Thank you so much. Juan calling in from Canada.
Yes. Yeah, my film Becoming Ruby is about Ruby Chopsticks, who was Canada's first drag artist in residence. And what that means is they got a residency with a um, organization called Rainbow Resource Center to just, do their art, be themselves, explore and grow as a drag performer, and also put on a show at the end of the year. It could be anything, but they chose to make that show a place to shed their spotlight or share their spotlight to other queer and BIPOC performers or stores or like anything like that. And I was just so inspired by that. And we were chatting earlier on, and we were both saying like like as a drag performer, Ruby just don't get to see any other Vietnamese drag performer in Canada. Um, and as a filmmaker, I just don't see anyone else like myself in the close quarters, especially in my city. And we were just like, let's make a film that can show that representation and show and perhaps be the representation that others might look to. So yeah, that's and in making that film and in talking about each other more about each other, we realized that being being in that space, you require a lot of support. No matter if it's like from your peers, from your friends, but especially from your family. And we were both so lucky that our moms supported us through our own journey. Like my mom really supported me being a filmmaker and not being an engineer like the rest of my family. And for Ruby, their mom really support them, and their family really support them now as a drag performer. They go to every show, they share all the stories, they share the film with everyone. So that's another big part of the film as well.
I actually love seeing the role of the mom, and anytime a parent of the older generation gets on board with their child who is clearly doing things in an unconventional, against the grain way, it's amazing to see. I'd love to see a follow-up with the mom.
Yeah, I wanted to make the film a lot more about the mom, but it just didn't end up that way. But yeah, it was such an amazing relationship.
It's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing it. Next, I've got Amy and Kai. Where are you calling from?
We're calling from Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, not that far. You had the funniest, I mean, I was laughing out loud, crying in many, many sections of it. So I can't wait to talk to you about how this is your pain or I can see the passion completely, but does this come from a place of pain? Or, I mean, the end of the scene at the end was really so heartfelt that the female actors did a tremendous job. Where did this come from?
Yeah, I mean, we had the pleasure of working with the actors who also wrote the script, Kathy and Giselle. And it was wonderful to, just have like an ongoing dialogue about the story and sort of the inspiration and personal experiences that inspired the film. And, the one conversation that we had a lot about was about sexuality as Asian women. And I think for both Kathy and Giselle, they were coming from very different places. Where for Kathy's character, her sort of journey throughout the film is becoming comfortable with herself and going back into dating, which is a scary thing, with the help of her friend Giselle. And by the end of the film, Giselle, speaks about being comfortable in her body and like how it's been an ongoing journey. And I think for us and all of our films, for Kai and me, I think when it comes to like working through this conflict and internal pain, what we find like really important is like leaning on the community, the friends around you or the family around you to get through tough times, and then also come out more self-realized by the end. So that's like generally our purpose with our films, is to like showcase these really like loving but complicated relationships where, we're going through it all together, but are able to like come out better on the other side.
I just love that you said that. It's been a tough week in the world, as you know. And I think what you said just resonates all day, every day. Thank you. Kai, how to co-direct something like this too is amazing. So please talk to that.
Yeah, it's actually funny. This is Amy and I's second sex comedy short film, which we I don't want to say fell into, but it just kind of happened to be like, I mean, so Kathy and Giselle watched our first film, House Rules, which was also at Viet Film Fest 2 years ago. And so we kind of like got on the call with them and, were able to create this like really wonderful story about these two best friends who are kind of like just going through it. And I think are like, trying to, explore, what it means to be a woman in this certain time, especially. I think the fun thing was like doing it sort of through like a genre, like magical realism convention. Cause I think that like really allows us to like speak to these things without, having to kind of like fully dive in and explore those types of traumas or conversations, or doing it in a way that's a little more deft and kind of new and exciting. And I think like doing it through the lens of comedy is always really fun too, because then we get to kind of like, poke fun at it and just like make it a really entertaining and fun experience. And I think it was definitely an exciting and fun challenge. And, doing it all within their confines of their apartment and that sort of thing made it exciting. And so it was a really great experience to work with them. And I think also working with like actors who wrote and were very close to the material is like a fun challenge as well. Cause, obviously they're close to the material. So you're trying to balance that with their performance and everything else and kind of making sure it all meshes in your, quick short film shoot. So
they were fabulous. I absolutely love the chemistry, and just seeing the dynamic of such comedy to all of a sudden switch to hardcore drama and tears was they were very adept. I was very impressed. So thank you for this gem of a film.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, Sama.
Hi. I would say that I think the driving force between Yellow Balloon and the pain and the purpose was definitely like this root of abandonment and this kind of loss of feeling of belonging, and kind of also reconnecting back with just the importance of this foundation that people have in your life that may serve you in a different way, whether they be, relatives or friends or different members of the family. And I think for me, the purpose was to just create a space where there could be more belonging and more understanding between all of us. And especially at a young age, that was something that I was definitely missing. And I think being able to create that space now with Yellow Balloon, and also bringing the intention of, my intention was to have like an all Vietnamese American film crew, if not all Asian American, which is like pretty tough and challenging being in the Pacific Northwest, but we definitely pulled through and were able to achieve that. And so just being able to do that with a team that we had was amazing. And I think a lot of people were able to see themselves and be really intentional with being part of the film. So that was amazing.
I love the young actress. She was, wow, she was amazing. I can't wait to see more come from her. She was so adorable and very vulnerable. So thank you for this wonderful gem too. I'm going to move to our next question, because I think this is something it's always an interesting one. What's your favorite scene in your film or your character, and why? And then which one is you? Because there's always one that you feel like a favorite child. They say there's no favorite child, but there actually is, right? But which one? What's your favorite scene, and or character, and why?
Oh, if it circles back to me,
Or you'd like to move as it comes.
Thank you. And I'm still marinating in all of y'all's responses, because they're so beautiful. And I think if I can start to answer this, I don't know if I can say it's my favorite. Definitely the most uncomfortable, and also which one is me, is the poet or the speaker on screen. And Nguyen, I so commend you for what you do, because it's terrifying showing up on screen. It's so scary. And this was my first time ever being in front of the camera. I think I'm more comfortable working in a writer-director capacity behind the camera. And not only that, but if not all of the stories, the work that I've done have been behind a layer of anonymity. I think because of the subjects themselves, and because they can incite, a reaction that is unsafe for me and the makers of the film. And I think a lot of that is inherited by my especially my matriarch family line of my mom, my aunt, my grandma, having navigated during the Vietnam War and how they arrived in the States. They did so not only helping themselves navigate, but helping their communities navigate and finding the boats. And the way that they were able to do that was by being anonymous. They couldn't be known. They had to be so quiet and so stealthy. And so for me, when I started making these social impact films, I operated in the same way, that no one would know who I was, what I was doing. And it was very much just about my community that I was serving. And so actually my instinct when I was doing this film was thinking, like, who should I cast to deliver this piece of spoken word? And I so appreciate my team for enabling me and helping me recognize that. And I think this is true for all of us. And for anyone watching this, is that the best person to tell your story is you, in whatever capacity you can. The more of yourself that you can show up with your story, the closer it'll be to the heart of it. And so it was incredibly uncomfortable for me. But it was also something that was really freeing, because I think it helped me to honor and respect what my mom, my aunt, my grandma had done before me, and at the same time start to challenge that and consider what serves me now in this time, in this space. It's still knowing when to be more careful about where I show up, but also when it's very important to show up.
That is so very true. I think for my film Operation Baby Lift, I had to think about who was the narrator, and I ended up narrating myself because I thought, who else can do it? First of all, I'm free, so I don't have to pay anyone. But this way, you're so right, is that who best to tell your story than you? And the uncomfort and the discomfort is where you grow as an artist. So it is a hard thing to do, but it's a wonderful thing to do as well.
Thank you. And incredible that you did. I'm so glad you narrated your own piece as well.
We can do hard things.
Yeah, we can.
What is your favorite scene, character besides yourself?
It's just me. I'm my favorite part about my movie. Just kidding. Well, there's a moment, my favorite scene is actually, it's when they're inside the vagina and she says this line, the character that I play, she says this line, it just feels so divine when talking about the vagina. And to me, like, that moment, like, because there's so much like silliness and playfulness like before and after, but like that line kind of like, it speaks a lot to like how she's feeling about, you know, her own womanhood and whatnot, and just like also the ideas that have been put into her head. So it's quite a loaded moment, despite, you know, the circumstance. But that would be like my favorite moment. And then the monologue where everything just comes out, you know, and it's all revealed. But my favorite character is probably Noah, because they're just like so loving and so supportive of their friend. And for me, it was so important to have Noah be this person, this wisdom, this, I don't know, sage or like light in Lee's circumstance, you know, especially when it comes to talking about like vaginas and whatnot, because like I feel like trans men and non-binary mask folks often get like left out of the conversation, you know, when it comes to like vaginas and menstruation and whatnot. And of course, everyone has like their own relationship with their body, but it's just something that I noticed. And I was like, I want this person to be a trans man or a non-binary mask person to like really be because, you know, this source of knowledge to Lee, who's learning everything at once. But yeah, so I would say Noah's my favorite character.
Besides yourself.
Yeah, besides me.
Thank you. Quan, how about for you?
Yeah, for me, I think the favorite scenes would be just the conversation between the mom and Ruby. It's just, yeah. I don't think we talk to our moms enough, and they had never talked to each other before the filming about all those things. And somehow with the little camera crew around them, they were able to talk about everything, how they feel when Ruby came out and how they felt when they went to the first show. And it was just so cool to see and makes me want to talk to my mom more.
I loved
Yeah.
it so much because you usually see the opposite happen, that happen. That's so common, that anger, that displacement, that projection, and then to see tolerance and acceptance and healing in the generation so beautifully done. I love that part.
Yeah, thank you.
Amy and Kai?
Well, so we definitely don't have a favorite character because there are only two of them and we love them both. I think I'm personally more like Kathy, I would say, because I mean, I love the opening scene with her kind of reeling before she's like deciding to respond to this guy on a dating app. I feel like that's very relatable to me. But I think that my favorite scene that we were shooting and like putting together in post was the getting ready montage and like going through the steps, because I don't know, I think that's something I've seen a lot in the movies I watched growing up. Like I love a getting ready montage, but obviously this is through a very, very different lens, as they're like getting through the steps of like, you know, a foreplay. So that was super fun. And yeah, what's your favorite scene?
My favorite scene is probably, well, in like the behind the scenes aspect of it, like in the hallway scene when Kathy is sort of like approaching Giselle and is kind of like, you know, reaching the like ready for her date moment. We along with Giselle and our composer, like created this original song on the fly that is like, if you listen carefully, has, pretty explicit lyrics.
Oh, I heard it. It was hilarious.
Yeah, and so like we made that, and that kind of like came actually organically in post, as we were like, I think we always knew that we wanted sort of like a choral type song, and then we were like, oh, it'd be kind of funny if Giselle, do a song, or like kind of be that, song in the background of Kathy's head. And so making that song was really funny, just being in our like composer's like recording studio, and having Giselle repeat, I don't know if there's censors, I won't say it, but repeat the same explicit word over and over, and kind of like create a song on like a random Saturday as we were like in the post process, was really fun. So yeah, the montage was super fun, just because it was like a lot of improvisation in terms of like what they were doing, and just like using a lot of the sort of like funny outtakes that we had through other things that we kind of like interspersed throughout the film. And in the cutting process, when Kathy's like walking down the hallway and she's kind of getting the flashes of that, was also really fun to put together with our editor, because whenever you're doing sort of the like anxiety flashes of a character, like that can kind of go in every which way, because you're just like, what footage do we have and what can we use to kind of like chop this up? And there's like a million different versions you can have, and I think we're pretty happy with the one that we landed on. So
again, tremendous job. I could actually watch a show just about Giselle, like the Giselle show, all day long, and singing would be great. Actually, let's do it.
Let's have her. Let's list it.
Summer, how about for you?
I think my favorite character is probably the Benoit, the grandma in the film. I think just her, and her being a first-time actor, it was just really wonderful to just see how attuned she was to kind of delivering that warmth and that guidance. And I would say the favorite scene that I have is the grocery store scene between when they're cashing out, and kind of this, I don't know, this like flip of responsibility, and kind of that reliance that the grandma had on the kid at such a young age would be one of my favorite scenes.
I actually love seeing the Benoit too, because you can tell when there's a trained actor versus a person that is being asked to play an authentic character, and it just seems very real. And to see our elders portrayed in that way when they're not trained, it is truly them, feels so comfortable and nice to see that kind of representation. Okay, we're halfway there. We're going to go to the next question. If you could go back and add one story beat or moment to your film, or if there's one that you would like to take out of the film, please share what and why. Marinate on that a second. Go ahead.
I still think about this all the time, because it's there's one sequence in the middle where we call out the names of the folks around the world who are leading these movements in their spaces. And one that I really wanted, and not for lack of trying, was Mahsa Amini. And because she was such a catalyst that led to, women cutting their hair and the discussions around it around the world leading to me. And she was really what catalyzed one of a huge impetus that catalyzed this for me. And it ended up being a BA challenge or business law type stuff. But and it was a balance between reaching out to her family and wanting what felt comfortable and what felt right. And at the time, because of the turmoil of everything, we just weren't able to reach out to them directly, because understandably there were folks that were reaching out to them for more harmful reasons. And so for that reason, and ultimately out of respect for not knowing, we didn't include Mahsa Amini. But in every personal conversation and every opportunity there is to, I really want to credit her and what she did for so many people.
Well, you just did. See, you just did it. You just added it right back in. Ian, how about for you? Is there something you would want to add in or take out?
Oh my gosh, I also think about this all the time too, especially as like I rewatch it at different screenings. I'm like, mm. But I think I would definitely add, I would love to like add in a scene of intimacy between like Lee and like a cis man to further showcase like the nuances that we experience that influence, at least have influenced me or influenced Lee's like kind of internal debacle. Um, yeah, but yeah, I can't get too much into it because it would be too explicit. But yeah, I think I would add something like that. And I think maybe I would change the beginning a little bit. I think because originally it was supposed to start differently, but then I changed it. So I don't know. I think I would maybe go back to the original beginning of how I was imagining it, opening it. But it is what it is, and I'm very proud of what we made with where we were and what we had. So yeah.
Love it. Love it. Quan, how about for you?
Yeah, for me, I think it's just more mom and child's relationship. Like I certainly wanted to make a film that was focusing more about that, but um, I had to make certain choices due to the funding that we got, which is fine. I'm still proud of the film that it turned out. But yeah, as filmmakers, we can't dwell on um, the film that we've made too much, I think, and we take the lessons and we make the next one better. So it's yeah, I try not to think about it too much.
I love that you said that. It's just one of those things, like even when you talk to the big filmmakers, they always have something that they wish they had changed and they go back and they do a director's cut. Just it's always interesting for the audience to know, what were you thinking and what would you have changed after reflecting back after a certain amount of time. Amy and Kai, how about for you?
I mean, similarly, we, I think that there's something very exciting and challenging about working under certain like financial constraints when it comes to making a film. And initially, we were planning on shooting at like an actual baseball field, but then it didn't work out. So that was something that a week leading to this short, we're like, okay, we need to just really like reimagine the way that we're going to play out all these montage like magical realism scenes. And I think it worked out well, like because I think in it being in Kathy and Giselle's real apartment, it felt like much more like honest and intimate. So if in a different world, if we had a little bit more money and whatnot, like maybe it would have just been at the baseball field and it would have looked different. But I think it worked out well, and I think what's most important is tracking their emotional journeys as friends.
Yeah, no, I agree with what Amy was saying, and I think that's kind of the fun challenge of making films in general is like you always have like a script, and then the actual production or pre-production process will like inevitably change. Whether that's lines or characters or set pieces or what have you, as you sort of like have to like work into a budget or work into time constraints or what have you. So like I think it ended up working out in our favor in the sort of like 2-day shoot that we had and sort of being able to fit everything that you're able to do, like going to a baseball field. And, for us, like it would have been the apartment still with the baseball field. So that kind of creates different logistical challenges. And I think in, a pro in Los Angeles is there's a lot of actors and a lot of, capable people to work on sets and that sort of thing. But I think a slight con of Los Angeles is it's hard to get away with things as you might be, if you're shooting in like, even, I'm from San Diego. If I were to shoot a short film in San Diego, you could probably like show up to a park and get away with some things. But I think in LA, I always have the fear in the back. Like, we've definitely made some rogue short films, but it is a little something you have to think about in terms of like, technically someone could shut you down or what have you or whatever. So there's an extra layer of challenge there that you have to balance in terms of making the film. But yeah.
And how about for you, Summer?
Funny you mentioned director's cut because I actually have one in my back pocket for Yellow Balloon, which is an extension of the first parent fight scene. And we decided to make that a little bit shorter. But there is like the parent fight scene that is much more extended and a little bit uncomfortable. But I think that discomfort speaks a lot to just personally how I was raised and how a few other film crew members were, had the experience of as well. And so if any scene, it would probably be that one to release out one day. But yeah.
That's so interesting because that scene struck a nerve with me too, and I bet a lot of us grew up that way. When you say discomfort, I can't imagine what you mean, but I can't wait to see it. Maybe Viet Film next year.
Definitely.
We're getting to the closing part of the questions. We are so grateful for your ability to be vulnerable and allowing us to look into your soul and your truth. Will you share with us any final thoughts or words of wisdom for our audience, including maybe young filmmakers or actors out there that are looking to you for inspiration? Marinate a second. Titania?
Oh gosh, I mean, and looking at this room, and I imagined the context of Viet Film Fest. I say this as someone who I feel like such a late bloomer, and I am very intimidated, terrified by many, many things in life. And I think what really gives me courage is learning our stories, the stories of today, as well as the stories of our parents, the stories of our ancestors before us. Learning that we were historically a matriarch, learning how my grandma, my aunt, my mom, such baddies, and I think it's worth saying, because seeing them now, I think, especially coping with the trauma of arriving here the way that they did, I there's an impression that they're so reserved, that they're so fearful, that they're so vulnerable. But hearing the stories, there's a time when they were, and they think they still are in some ways, but there's not as much opportunity for it to surface. But like, my God, they're incredible. Like, it just makes me feel so brave, because I think it's hard to anticipate how you're going to respond to something and how you'll rise to meet an occasion until you get there. But looking at your parents, looking at the people that came before you, gives you an idea of what you could do, gives you an idea of what you would be capable of. So I think hearing their stories, I'm like, oh my gosh, you did that? I have it in my veins. Perhaps I could do that too. So I think anytime I've ever doubted myself or felt self-conscious or unsure, it's really tapping into these stories that this group of filmmakers is making, that we're just surrounded by, and maybe we don't give enough attention or credit to. But it's really incredibly motivating, empowering, and thank you so much.
Thank you. How about for you, Ian?
I think the words of wisdom I want to share is essentially echoing Clementine's message of, that it's okay to not be okay and feel a little lost and not know who you are. Remember to have patience and be kind to yourself, love yourself. You are the love, the greatest love of your life, so treat and respect and love yourself as such. And, to like young filmmakers, actors, I'm still, kind of figuring things out too. But I would just say, don't wait for the opportunity, make the opportunity yourself and you'll figure it out. It's okay if what you do at first is bad. That's okay. We all start somewhere. So again, practice patience and kindness with yourself. There's no rush. So just enjoy the journey. But yeah.
I love it. I want that on a shirt and a little Clementine. I love that. Juan, how about for you?
Yeah, I think for me, for other filmmakers out there, I guess I remember coming to Canada and starting to make films. I wanted to make films that would like fit in and what I thought would get the funding. Looking around, but when I started making films about Vietnamese people, about from my stories, and films that I really want to make, then I just started getting grants and making films and getting to festivals. So I guess my advice would just be like, tell the stories tell the stories you can tell, and then share it with festivals like Viet Film Fest, where there is an audience hungry for that story, because that's what makes us special as storytellers, when we make films that only we can make. So I hope everyone here and everyone watching can keep doing that.
I love it. Thank you. Amy and Kai?
I mean, it's sort of an echo of what everyone has said, but I think that making films is like such a privilege, and I think that telling stories that are really specific will end up being the most universal. And I think especially when it comes to telling stories from the perspective of being like a Asian person, I think understanding that your experience and your like perspective is going to be so unique, and so just to you don't have to necessarily fit a mold. You can create your own. And I think just in terms of the filmmaking process and for advice to young filmmakers, it's similarly just do the thing and create your own yes and lean on your friends and your community of other creatives just to put together something that just I think that the thing that's so lovely about film is that it's so collaborative and it feels like a very living entity. And so really embracing like the collaborative side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, going off of what Amy was saying is just and what everyone else is saying is I think creating your own yes and really just I think doing the thing. And I think with filmmaking, especially in the short form, a lot of it is the sort of thing we do after work, or maybe not your sort of like job. So I think like there is kind of like a lot of self-motivating you have to do to yourself to like write and create your own stuff. But I think it's super important. And also like I just think it's really great that everyone's able to create their own stories and sort of tell all of these super personal aspects of their lives and put them in the filmmaking. And I think the best thing that we can do is continue to create and show that to everybody else, and kind of show everyone that we're here. And I think it's just a really great thing, especially having a film festival that continues to show that and show all these different aspects of our lives, which I think is just really important. So yeah.
So true. So true. Summer?
I would say speaking it into existence, and that story can live inside of you and kind of twist and turn. But I think once you again find your community, find your collaborators, and be able to again like kind of speak it into reality and talk about it more, I think it becomes more and more real. And echoing everyone said, like I think reaching into our past and our present and our hopes for the future as well. I think that is such a beautiful thing when we can really just dig really deep and share the things that we think and feel. And because you never know who may be thinking and feeling those same things, and wanting to also be seen in that way too.
That's so true. I love that you said to speak it, because I'm a big proponent of manifesting, and sometimes to say it out loud or to write it, all of a sudden you make your dream, your wish come true. And someone who's listening around you create this community of wish makers. And somehow here we are all together in this space. Who would have thought that we would be here today? From where I started 16 years ago, I would have never thought that I'd be here today. And it's such a privilege. I have one final question since we're rounding it out. Very quickly want to ask each of you, so what's next and how we can support you? Titania?
Oh gosh, great question. I'm hesitating because I feel like everything I've ever made has not been anything that's planned, but it's been prompted as a response to what feels necessary at the time. And I've learned a way to describe that is with occasion poems. So my work has been motivated by writing a poem, which has been a response to an occasion, something that's happened. And so now, even though I'm creating work that's outside of the format of an occasion poem, I still take the same approach where I feel myself responding to something happening in the world. And then I create something to try to alleviate the pains of that. So now it's taking a few different forms. One of them is a documentary feature that I'm working on. and a very close friend of mine, but essentially the story of a dying mother having her first and last years with her newborn son. And so she teaches him how to be proud of your heritage, how to respect women, how to build and lead on your community, and how to never ever forget how deeply loved you are. That against the backdrop of being treated within American healthcare system and identifying as an Indonesian American immigrant mother and a Black male partner. So what does that look like in the context of all of this? So that's one project that I'm very excited about and constantly working through. Another one is as I'm leading a campaign for a social justice organization of how we position rally our community to respond to the current administration and the communities that are affected by it. When your government doesn't show up to support you, how do you as a community show up to support each other? That alongside some commercial work. So a lot of things, I think, all prompted by immediacy and urgency. And so I never have the answers, kind of like a day to day, what do we need to do to get to the next?
Thank you so much. And as a community of artists, we are healers too. So it's often a response to what is the problem of the day, truly.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
How about you?
So what's next? I have another short film that I star in that's directed and written by Gina Rosero that's making its premieres, starting next month, end of this month. So take a look out for that, And then I'm actually working on my next short film that I wrote and will be starring in and will also be directing. It'll be my directorial debut, which is so wild, but so exciting. And I think for ways to support, I feel like I can speak for every filmmaker here, but it's like if you like our work, you see our work, and you happen to have an abundant amount of financial resources, like hit us up, support us, so I feel like, yeah.
So true. Nguyen, how about for you?
Yeah, last time I answered this question was at another online Q&A at Viet Film Fest the year before, and I was talking about my film Becoming Ruby, and hopefully it plays at Viet Film Fest, and I guess it worked. So I'm working another short doc, and hopefully it'll play at Viet Film Fest next year. But it's about a street portrait artist that I saw in the middle of a market in Da Nang in Vietnam on my last trip there, and I was just so fascinated by how he said he could capture someone's aura and tell their story in 15 minutes as he draws their portrait on his, um, a piece of paper. And no matter if AI can do it super fast and super accurate, he still thinks that he has some heart and soul, and there's still a purpose to that. So I said, if I come back in 5 days with my camera gear, can I tell your story in 15 minutes? And he said yes. So yeah, I did that, and now my wife is editing it together, and hopefully it'll show at the Film Fest next year. But yeah, I'm excited about that.
I love it. Keep going. Keep going. Amy and Kai?
Our main thing that we're really pushing for is our first feature. So we've written a script that we're in the process of finding actors for and finding financing for. And I guess, again, if you know anyone who has big pockets who want to make a coming of age movie about a group of friends navigating like their 20s in a post-COVID world, let us know.
Yeah. Retweet. Yeah, no, it's an exciting and fun process, and we hope to be continuing to push forward in that way and just continue to work and create and write things. So that's what's keeping us excited.
Love it. And for you, Summer?
I'm working on a documentary that's focused on immigrant labor and kind of tying it to sustainability and environmental ethics. I will say I'm in the very early like R&D phase of it. So if y'all know anyone that has either worked in the garment industry or manufacturing, companies at all, that would be incredible help as we're kind of starting to figure out who we're going to be wanting to interview and kind of connect the dots as we like go on this journey. But really, it's to talk about just fast fashion, slow fashion, and kind of our like complicitness, I guess, or complicity in just what we're doing to the world and nature, and kind of taking a little bit of a of a step to awareness for how we can change and make it better. So
it's a comedy.
it's definitely a comedy. Yeah.
Well, that concludes our Q&A with the filmmakers. I want to thank all of you for your time today, and also for Hom An, who could not be present with Saigon Kiss. I want to remind our viewers that you can continue watching Viet Film Festival at home until October 19th. And please watch more films and support all these amazing filmmakers. And if you have a lot of money, please show us the money, right? If you will join me in saying filmmakers, let's say everyone, goodbye. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
How was that?